Hello, in this video I'm going to be covering for loops for my deep dive, and I want to briefly go over loops, which are basically control float statements that allow sequence of instructions to be repeated multiple times. And there are different types of loops, including for loops, while loops, and do while loops. So for while loops, the number of iterations is not known, and for my loops video I used the example of studying into one is tired. That's the analogy that I use. And for the do while loop, the number of iterations is also not known, which is similar to the while loop, but the loop body will execute at least once. So the analogy that I used for that was I will study for at least one chapter. Now going back to for loops, which is the main topic of this video, it's basically the number of iterations are known. And the analogy that I use for this is I will study into a specific amount of chapters, like let's say for 5 chapters. So to code for loops, you always want to include IOStream, and you need to initialize so it can execute once before the loop starts, and this is represented with the int I. That's what I set it equal to, and I initialized it to 1. And you also need to condition so it can check before each iteration, and if the statement turns out false, then the loop stops. So for here it is represented by I is less than or equal to 5. And after that semicolon, you also need to update, so it is executed after each iteration, and this is represented with I and 2 plus signs. And as you can see here, the code has executed 5 times and the output did count to 5 as well. So you may be wondering, why does for loops matter and why is it important? Well, it's because it's efficient. First of all, it lets you repeat a block of code multiple times without having to write it over and over again. And this is really necessary when the number of iterations are known ahead of time. If you don't know the number of iterations, you can use while loop or do while loop instead. For loops also give precision over the starting point, ending point, as well as the step increments. And this is handy when it comes to like counting, and like it's pretty helpful in general, like when it comes to looping through ranges. For loops are commonly used in arrays and vectors, and as you can see here, I did use the for loop for this array example. And another example that you can use like for loops in is like creating a multiplication table. Some common mistakes people make when using for loop is forgetting to update, which is represented by the I and double plus sign, and this will lead to an infinite loop. And also some people may use 1 equal sign instead of 2 for the condition. And that pretty much sums up my videos on for loops, and yeah, thank you for watching.